Okay, so welcome everyone to this very special Farbrengen. Thank you so much, Orit Esther Riter, for gathering us all together on this very special day of Kaf-Daled Tevet, which is the Yortzeit, the Histalkus of the Alter Rebbe, Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, the first Lubavitcher Rebbe. So much to say. Let's see. First of all, what's a Farbrengen? For those of you in Israel, they call it a hitvadut. It says the power of a Farbrengen, even the Malach Michael can't achieve what the power of a Farbrengen can do. It's when people get together, and especially women as we get together, even more so, and we take Torah ideas and we really bring them down. How it applies to our lives, to our hearts, and we share and we connect and we really help each other move forward in our avodas Hashem. So just a very quick story. I had the schos a few months ago to have a rabbi come speak for us. And he said, it's not a shir. This is more of a Farbrengen. And he said, I want you to know, he said, and this was in Mishkafayim for those in Ramat Beit Shemesh, but because I know all the people in the story, I really wanted to share it tonight. That he said there was a certain family, and they had a daughter who she was already getting older and older and waiting and going on shidduchim and going on shidduchim. Nothing was happening. He said, I don't know how I had the chutzpah. He says, who am I? He said, but all of a sudden I said, no, it's a Farbrengen. He said, that's it. By this time next year, you will be married. And he said, a month later, she met her chassan. So we all said, wow. So I said to the ladies, this is the power of a Farbrengen. If we tap into that power, this is Hashem. Everything's possible. Come on, ladies. What do you know? After the Farbrengen, the next day, I get a phone call from a friend of mine. She says, Leahs, you won't believe it. Now, unfortunately, she'd been having some real shalom bias problems. And her husband, it's questionable whether he should be on medication. There's some mental, emotional issues going on there that she'd got to the place where she thought, it's really about medicine now. It's not even trying to get certain concepts across to him. And this had been going on for 6-7 months. She says, you won't believe it. I got back from the Farbrengen, and he says, I want to talk to you. And suddenly he started saying all these different things, acknowledging what he'd been doing and acknowledging basically there was someone to talk to, that he understood what was happening. He understood, and suddenly there was a whole new flow and communication in their shalom bayis. Real story. So please, whatever's on your heart, whoever you want to daven for, let's take the time to really share it, say it out loud, unmute, not unmute, doesn't matter whether we're in Eretz Yisrael, whether we're in America, Canada, Cyprus, doesn't matter. We're beyond space and time. So l'chaim.
Wow, l'chaim. I have my tea, so I don't have wine today. I have my tea. L'chaim. I love it. I have to tell you, even if I wasn't into Farbrengens, which is my second official Farbrengen, so I'm actually getting into the Farbrengen mode. I have to tell you, you sold me on it just from the way that you described with such passion, and that's Hasidism. I think what I love about Hasidism, it's just exciting and exhilarating and enthusiastic, and it's your entire neshama and cells are dancing in your avodas Hashem. That's what sells me. Like a high without the other stimulants, right?
Real high, exactly, right. The real thing.
Right. So tell us. I want to hear some more. I have some stories I'm going to share too, but I want to hear what you have to say. Please.
Okay. Please so the Alter Rebbe, he passed away. Actually, it was the time they were on the run from Napoleon. This is part of the French Revolution. And Napoleon sought to modernize the world, which he in fact did. And it's very interesting. Amongst the Torah greats of the time in Europe, there was a split on what would be better for Napoleon to win and there to be this free world where it was all about free rights, or better, he didn't win. The Alter Rebbe was very much on the side that Napoleon shouldn't win, because even though physically it would be better for the Jews, spiritually it wouldn't be better. Spiritually it won't be better, and he received Ruach HaKodesh and so on, that this wouldn't be so. And so there's a story, I don't remember with which great tzaddik, whoever would blow the shofar first on Rosh Hashanah in the morning, that's who would have their opinion, so to speak, is what would come through. And it said that the Alter Rebbe blew the shofar first, and Napoleon was defeated, which in fact he was. Now, however, he was Mesiras Nefesh for this. He gave his life for it. So even though Napoleon then retreated, in the process, it took a tremendous toll on the Alter Rebbe's physical life. And so soon after, he passed away in Haditch. It was a Motzei Shabbos. Right before Shabbos, he gave over a teaching that can be found in the Tanya, in the 5th book of Tanya. And he gave over another teaching, Motzei Shabbos, mamash hours before he passed away. And what's very interesting about both these teachings is they're mamash the opposite, if you like, to his life's work. The Alter Rebbe was a very holy man. The Baal Shem Tov called him a neshama chadasha, meaning he had a new way to introduce to the world. He was going to take Hasidus, which the Baal Shem Tov introduced, and bring it to Chabad, meaning Chachma Bina Das, that we can take this chayas that we feel, as the Rebbe has said, in every cell of our body, and we can understand it. We can, I don't want to say there's a formula, but yes, there's what to wrap our heads around. We can really integrate it into our lives. It's not just this ethereal, spiritual teaching, but we can actually internalize it and live with it in the physicality. So the Alter Rebbe, and this was his entire life's teaching. It says he told his grandson, for the 3 days before he was passing, when he'd look at the ceiling, he didn't see the ceiling anymore. He saw the letters of Hashem's name in the ceiling. So we're talking about a very holy, spiritual man. And yet, what do these 2 last essays talk about? There is nothing greater than doing a favor for another Yid. Suddenly it's like, whoa, what's more important here, the spiritual or the physical? And this was the Alter Rebbe. There is a story. So there's 2, I'll start with one story and then like to hear everybody else. But one story of, there was a chassid of the 5th Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Rebbe Rashab, and he would fast. Sorry if there's a bit of disturbance. Let me know if you can't hear me so well. It's okay. He fasted, it says, for 40 years. Obviously not straight, but I don't know, in the daytime and the evening, but he fasted often for 40 years. This is not the way, and was not the way in Chabad at all. The Alter Rebbe put a stop to a lot of the fasting and said, we're just not on that level anymore. And that was back then in the late 1700s. However, this particular chassid would daven in great length and would fast. And obviously his physical health took a toll and he died prematurely. And the Rebbe Rashab said, chaval for all that fasting, because with what all that fasting achieved, just to put on tefillin one more time is more than the 40 years of fasting could achieve. But just to give you a mind teaser, but to understand the value of putting on those tefillin for just one time, he needed 40 years of fasting.
Wow.
So that's Hasidus. It's tremendous godliness, spirituality, and so on. But why? And this was the culmination of the Alter Rebbe's work. Why? To remind us of what it is to do a mitzvah, no matter what our kavanas, no matter what level we are, and to help another Jew. Not because even then they're going to keep more Torah mitzvahs, just to help another Jew.
Wow.
Okay.
That is so beautiful. Okay, now I have to tell my story. So this
Right.
story, I have to tell you, I feel like it plays right into what you just said, because it just, so, as many know, when there was a time where I was able to go into Ukraine and take a beautiful group of women into the Ukraine. We went to Hadich many times. I have to tell you one experience that we had, particularly when we went to Hadich. We got there very late in the middle of the night. Anybody who goes to these beautiful Ukraine, retreats with me, know, and in general, when you go to the Ukraine, you're not sleeping. You're feeding your soul. You're not feeding your body. Your body hates it. I always say your body hates these trips, the bumps and the crazy Ukrainian drivers and no sleep. And, some smirky faces by some of the, unfortunately, anti-Semitic Ukrainians that are still there. But at the end of the day, your soul is just so well nourished and so well fed. And it really takes a couple of days to land back on earth. And there's almost like this melancholy that comes upon us. But anyway, the first stop when we go to Hadich, I don't always go to Hadich, but when we do go to see the Baal Tanya, the Alter Rebbe Kadosh, we always get there. That's the first stop because it's way off of the beaten track from all the rest of the places that we go and see. And usually get there at like 9 o'clock at night. We usually land in the afternoon. It takes a couple hours to get there. Bottom line is by the time you get to the Rebbe's kever, it's freezing cold. You're walking through this forest with, in the middle of the night, but we're all walking together. And at one point, I remember at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, a whole busload of English, I could tell by their accent, young Bacharim came. And of course they have like a little mechitza, like the curtain. And so, okay, we closed off the curtain. If not, we have the whole oil to ourselves. And they were singing until 3 or 4 in the morning. And us ladies, we were halashing behind the curtains and we were crying and we were crying. And I put a little bit of my nigunim on the background. They were singing sometimes to my nigunim, sometimes they were singing and draft off to their own. Wow, wow, wow. So this is a story that I talk about, when I try to explain a little bit what is the Alter Rebbe for us, okay? And so it starts with this. So Rabbi Pinchas Mikoritz, which was one of the more esteemed disciples of the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, was really at the time, and one of the successors of the Baal Shem Tov's teachings. He was at the time of the Maggid Mezrich and Rabbi Shneur Zalman Miliadi, the Alter Rebbe. And Rabbi Pinchas was very, very against the whole idea. He looked at Hasidus from a place of, this is such a cherished gem. We can't just spread it around to the masses. We've got to behold it and cherish it and only give it out to those who really appreciate the taste of it. And yet the Maggid was completely against it. He was, put it out there. That's the calling. That's what we need to be doing. So at one point, Rabbi Pinchas was walking down the streets of Mezrich, and he stumbled upon a puddle. And in the puddle, he had this, I guess, Ruach HaKodesh to go in there and see, what was in that puddle. He saw a piece of paper, like a battled, whatever, a piece of paper, a tattered piece of paper. He picked it up, and lo and behold, he saw that it was the writings of Hasidus on this piece of paper. It was just thrown in a muddy puddle. And he was just filled with so much anguish. Like, here, you see, no one appreciates. This is like gold, and it's just sitting there in this puddle of water. So he went over to the Maggid and to the Alter Rebbe, and he said, you see, this is why we should not be spreading Hasidus. They don't appreciate it. We have to we have to treasure, we have to hold it dear. And Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi brought about a metaphor to explain the importance of teaching Hasidus b'chozot, in no matter what. And he brought it down in the way of a parable, right, a metaphor. And he said like this. He said, once upon a time, there was a mighty king who had an only son. I'm reading from the text because I feel like every word is so important. I don't want to miss out on any word and paraphrase this. Wishing his son to grow in wisdom and might, he sent him off to a faraway land. And the prince was there to learn the foreign plants and animals and the culture of the foreign land. And one day the news came to the king that his son in this faraway land had fallen deathly ill. And there was a decree, everyone, whoever you know, whatever doctor, come and save my son. And of course, no remedy, no cure, nothing was found. All the best and most esteemed doctors came along. There were no remedies that were able to save this beautiful prince and son. And at one point, though, as time passed by, an older man appeared in front of the king, and he said, I have a proven remedy that I know will help heal your son. But it entails some out-of-the-box thinking, to put it straight and forward. He says, we need to find a special gem that's very exquisite and very rare. And we need to take this gem, we need to grind it up, we need to mix it up with the most majestic, superb wine. And if we can get the prince to drink just a little bit of it, there's a chance, we don't even know for sure, but there's a good chance that he will be able to be cured from this illness. And he told this to the, the entourage of the king, and they're looking around. They say, how are we going to tell the king about this gem? Because the man had said this one gem is found on the king's crown. If we can get that gem from the king's crown and grind it up and get it into the prince, there's a good chance that we can cure this prince. How are we going to tell the king? I mean, his whole crown is going to be belittled, and it'll lose its royalty if we take away this gem. It's the ultimate symbol of king sovereignty. And yet they decided they were going to do that. And without one moment of hesitation, the king said, do it. Here's my crown. Take it and do it. If there's no prince, there's no kingdom. There's no one that's going to follow suit. So what is my crown worth if I don't have my prince well, and there's a chance that he will, survive. So they learned at that moment that the prince was becoming more and more direly ill, to the point where his lips became sealed. So now they're thinking to themselves, how are we going to even get this remedy in his mouth? His lips are sealed tight. But they decided, the king was still overjoyed. He said, do it. And he gave an instruction, and they grinded up the gem. They mixed it with the wine. They traveled to the prince, and they were somehow able to get a little bit of this remedy into the prince's mouth. And sure, as a miracle happened, the prince was revived and came back home. And so it was. And so the Alter Rebbe says to Rabbi Pinchas, and he says, are you comforted now? Don't you understand what this means? This means that even if just a little bit of Hasidus, gets into somebody's heart and revives them from the dead, it was all worthwhile. And the king will be overjoyed by this. And I think to myself, what a gorgeous understanding of the fact that, yes, here we are, we're learning the importance of Hasidus, and it is mamish tfiyat meitim for us. We couldn't survive without the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe and all the disciples of the Chavraya Kadisha. We could not survive. I know for myself, I'm attesting for it. And so, this is a story metaphor that for me really is just so powerful to explain, the power of Hasidus. All right, I'm giving it over back to you.
Okay. Does anyone else have it's so beautiful and moving, the power of Hasidus? Yeah, mamash tchias hamesim. Does anyone else have a story they want to share at this point?
Yehudi, do you want to come on in? And I see you here. You want to share? And anybody else, of course.
Hi. Just in general, I didn't grow up like I was blessed to, go to Beis Yaakov's. I was not exposed to Hasidus until I was an adult. And it's just really like life transformational to live your life in just in a completely different kind of way, in a place of light, gentleness, love. It's what's the word? It's softer, and it's meaningful, and it's the way that Hashem intended. That wasn't the education I got, and it just I just feel very blessed to have been able to, to have learned it at whatever age I'm at, and then to continue to do that learning with you, to continue to expand upon that and make it like incredible, like with the Rise and Shine, for example. It's like my mind's exploding, my heart is exploding, my neshama is exploding with all this knowledge and revelation. And it's almost like, how do you even live your life without it? Like once you have it, you can't even imagine how it could be any other way. And you just want to take it and share it with the world. So like for me, it's like I always understood, I knew the story with the Baal Shem Tov asking Mashiach, like, when are you going to come? And he said, like, when your teachings will spread. I didn't know what that meant, and there was even like a little part of me that was like, wait a minute, there are other people. Yeah.
Just in case, because I don't know who's here, could you tell that story, the story you're referring to?
Oh, I don't know if I know the whole story exactly, but the Baal Shem Tov, I don't even know what this means, but he had the opportunity to be able to speak to Mashiach. And he asked him, when are you going to come? When will you, when you're coming? Like, what do we have to do? And Mashiach said that when the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov, which is basically, I call it like practical Kabbalah, like taking these very complex, lofty concepts that the Arizal taught and making it available to you and me, when that knowledge will spread to all of us, and we're going to serve Hashem from that place. And the knowledge will spread like the way that the water spreads, all over the world. It goes wherever, it's allowed. Then that's when Mashiach can come. And I'm just, like as someone who's involved in Jewish outreach, like I look at programs that are not necessarily Hasidic programs, and they're all teaching Hasidus, whether they realize it or not. It's really like the prophecy is really coming true, and we see it so much today, and we need it today. We need it now more than ever because we're so much more fragile. We are going through much more difficult times, I think, than ever before. It's sort of like we're being hit with everything at once, and we need it.
100%.
We just need that soft.
I found the song. It's playing now in the background from Naftali Kemp, and thank you, Hashem. Right here. Let's listen to it for a minute. That's what he said. Eimatai Katimar. Those are the exact. He asked Mashiach, "When are you coming? When is the Adon going to be coming?" So I'll have that playing in the background, and yeah, it's so beautiful, so beautiful. Yeah.
So it's interesting. You were saying that the gentleness of Hasidus, and I think that it's connected to the all-encompassing nature of what Hasidus is, which I know the Rebbetzin has a story, and just before she shares, the very name of the Alter Rebbe, the Baal Tanya, is Shneir Zalman. Zalman is also connected, but I don't have my notes in front of me, so I'm sorry for that. But Shneir is Shnei Or, two lights. So it says, because the Alter Rebbe wrote a code of Jewish law, so dealing with the revealed dimensions of Torah. And he wrote the Tanya, amongst other Hasidic works, dealing with the hidden dimensions. Like Yehuda was saying, the practical Kabbalah, Hasidus. Kabbalah is where a person gets to see godliness from Hashem's view, which can be very disorientating because we're just not used to that. Hasidus brings it down. It's godliness, but from within our bodies, from within the world. And that's why it's so much more palatable. And so within the very name itself, Shneur, the fact that it's one name brings together the physicality and the spirituality to show it's all godliness. It's all godliness. There is nothing outside of Hashem. There is nothing too low. That wherever we are and wherever we're holding, it's just about revealing the godliness. Just as the work that the Rebbetzin does, nobody's mamish sick, God forbid. We just have some schmutz, some dirt to wipe away. It's just Hashem in a hidden form instead of a revealed form. And when we reveal it, as it says in the Tanya, the light that's hidden in the darkness, the revelation of Hashem that's hidden in the darkness is even greater, is an even greater, brighter light once it's revealed. So it's all one. So there are no parts of us that are bad or wrong. There's parts of us that need love, tenderness, acceptance, understanding, attention. But there's not, it's all godly.
Leit atar panui minea. Those are the exact Aramaic words. There is no void in the universe that doesn't have a spark of godliness that tells it to be in existence. The manifestation of Hashem's presence is all here, and we may not see it. And that is the avod. That is what it means to be an Eved Hashem. Yagata umatzata ta'amin. I always say that. The way that you find is you have to do yigiyah, and the yigiyah is also gagua. There's a yearning. The avoda is in the gagua. Ani mitgagea. I yearn matzata, to find, la v'ta'amin, and to grow in my emuna. That epitomizes what it means to be a Jew in Hasidus. And for me, it's just so freeing to know that this is the avoda. Like, I don't have to be stumped over, if I don't find it. That means I still have to try harder, or I have to yearn harder, or that's part of the avoda. And I say this also to women. It says ivdu et Hashem b'simcha. Ivdu means, first of all, you fulfill your tafkid as an eved when you're looking for the simcha, and being in the place of simcha doesn't come naturally. It comes naturally when you find Hasidus and you find Hashem, but it's the avoda. Ivdu et Hashem b'simcha means you have to la'avod. You have to strive. You have to strive to want to be in that place of simcha, but it's something that's matzata ta'amin. We can achieve that, and I find that very healing and a soothing balm to the soul, and to so much of the emotional hysteria that we go through in life. And I'm like you, Yehudit. Like, I also found Hasidus at a very relatively older age. I mean, 7-8 years ago. I'm in general, I'm a Baalat Tshuva for 25, 24 years. I don't know, I stopped counting. But, finding Hasidus, it's Torah is all encompassing, but we're here to say there is definitely the meat of Ivdu et Hashem is really in Hasidus. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the two big pieces for me, like I never understood, but it's really starting to crystallize, is like, like sometimes you find yourself in a certain situation in life, and like when you don't live with Hashem in the practical way, because we think of Hashem, at least the way, like I said, like I was like educated, like Hashem is like up there and I'm like down here doing my thing, and then somehow like there's that space. But then when Hashem is everywhere, so whatever it is that you're doing, it's like an opportunity, like, where's Hashem, bringing him in and all that. So, and then knowing that wherever you are, like you have that deep understanding, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. Like if I'm here, but I think I need to be over there. It doesn't mean I shouldn't try. It means that there's something there's some spark that has to be revealed here. Once that's done, it's done. And I just want to share something interesting publicly. The last Farbrengen that we had, I talked about that I've been working in the non-Jewish world, the corporate world, for about 22 years. And I felt like it was a privilege. I am the only person on the corporate level, thousands of employees, that is openly from, Yid. And there were a lot of people, and people know that I go by my Hebrew name at work. It's not easy for someone not Jewish to say Yehudit. So, so it always like lends itself. So I wear my name with pride, and I proudly am Jewish to everyone that I work with. And I was like, wow, it's so interesting. Like lately, since September, I've been working with people who are Jewish, but not yet from. And I was like, wow, what a great opportunity. And Hashem sent me like a great kick in the pants. Like, your service in this world is over. And I will spare everyone the details. Erbitson has been very helpful on my journey, but actually leaving the corporate world and going into it from non-for-profit, like it's like whatever needed to be done, whatever sparks had to be revealed, it's over. And like once that mission is done, Hashem gives you like a kick in the pants. And if you're not going, and you go, lech lecha. So I'm just sharing that, like when you have that mindset, like that we're in service of Hashem, and even the mundane things that we do, like when I clean my house, I have the image of like I'm the Kohen Gadol, like cleaning my house like the way he does in the Beis Hamikdash, whatever it is, like that this is godly work. So Hashem puts me wherever he needs me to be. And sometimes you go willingly and sometimes you don't. So, and if he gives you a little shove. So, and that's okay. Because the goal is to align our will with Hashem's will. So, so I'm just excited to see what's next, like what sparks are next on the journey.
But that's the whole thing, is to be open and saying, I don't know, I'm serving you, Hashem, like your
exactly.
GPS, you've got the ways, right?
100%. So it's like to be open and just to know that wherever you are, as much as you're like, oh, I shouldn't be here, I need to be somewhere else. If you're there, you need to be there. Absolutely. Whatever reason, figure out what that, maybe it's a gift to know what it is, but right. If you don't, just accept that.
Okay, right.
This is wherever stage you are in life, if you're single, divorced, wherever you are, there's a reason to be there. So.
Right. Well, bikashta misham. Right. Leahs, Shana, you have your sparks in your Cyprus, hotel room, right?
That's right. That's actually what helped me come, because it wasn't easy. To leave the kids, and sometimes it's easier, sometimes not, depends what's going on. But it became clearer that there's something to do over here.
Right.
And I know when we made Aliyah just over 12 years ago, also it happened so abruptly. And it was very clear. Hashem was saying, okay, your shlichus is now somewhere else. But we each have a shlichut in this world. Sparks to elevate. And
when you
piece of the world to transform to Mashiach, to Mashiach's time.
Right. So I'm going to share another story here that I have, which is really also a very beautiful story. And I love the idea of seeing the connection between the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe, and seeing and we know they both share the same birthday, and Chayelul, and so I'll share the story, another story that is very, very touching for me. So we know that for the neshama, these beautiful neshamas, as Leahs Shana was saying, these are new neshamas. There's it's written in Tzavat Ribash, the Will and Testament of the Baal Shem Tov, it's a compilation of different, sayings and teachings of the Baal Shem Tov, that we learn that also the Baal Shem Tov says that before Adam HaRishon was about to sin, we don't understand this on any cosmic level at all, but the neshama of Adam HaRishon knew that the sin was about to happen and knew that it was going to be shattered and have to have a massive cosmic, cataclysmic, whatever they call it, tikkun. And some of the sparks actually left before engaging in the sin. And one of these sparks was the spark of the Baal Shem Tov, say the Rei Shimon Bar Yochai. I wouldn't be surprised if many of the Chavraya Kadisha, the Baal Shem Tov, were also in that collection. But there was a lot of mitnagdim. And we know, and that's another very strong principle of Hasidut, that not only Lefum Tzara Agra, but the whole idea of understanding that there's going to be miniyot, and there's going to be things that we're going to be, having to confront in our lives, and there's going to be mitnagdim, because the possession of light, it requires that yigiyah, right? That whole idea of yigiyah. Who's calling me now? Should be calling me. I'm in the middle of a Farbrengen. No calling. So the whole idea of this itnagdut is like not something foreign to the Chavraya Kadisha and the disciple circle, the circle of disciples of the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh. So what happened was, at one point, the opponents of the Hasidic movement asked the Alter Rebbe, and turned to him and he said, well, what has Hasidut really accomplished in the world? Like, what is this new path? Like, why can't we just stick with the same path? What is so, luminous? What is so radiant and so new and so needed by the Hasidic movement? And the Alter Rebbe responded in kind, and he said, that very same question was presented to the Saba Kadisha, to my grandfather, the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, which he only had this to see twice in his life. Once you didn't really see him at his bris, and the second time is up Sherenish. Those are the only two times the Alter Rebbe actually met physically the Baal Shem Tov. And yet, whenever he saw a picture of the Baal Shem Tov in his home, and he would ask his parents, who is this? They would say, that's your Zeta. And so he grew up knowing that the Baal Shem Tov is the Zeta, and everyone knows the Baal Shem Tov as being the Zeta. So he said, this is what my Zeta, he was also presented this question. This is what my grandfather said. And he gave again a parable, because we know the Hasidut is based on stories and parables, and that's the best way for it to be imprinted in our nefesh. And he gave the parable as recounted by what he had heard from the Baal Shem Tov. And he said like this, just like every homeowner that has a yard, that has in his yard all kinds of different animals and, different livestock that he has to protect. It's my mother, so I'm sorry, Mom, but I can't speak to him on the Farbrengen, and I feel bad. Sorry. But just as, every landowner has to protect, and guard off his livestock and his property from thieves, there's two options of being able to do that. And he says, we can either do one way. We could, of course, put up the proper protections, but however, when it comes down to when the thief enters, we have two options. We can either chase the thief away, and by doing that, the thief leaves right away and very instantaneously and very quickly, or we can take the thief in and we can educate him, imagine that, and befriend the thief and explain to him why it's not kedai for him to be a thief. And that's what the Alter Rebbe represented to these opponents. And he said, what is the advantage of the first approach? Is that, yes, we get rid of the problem. The thief will run away. And we understand that it's a quick and easy solution. However, that thief might try to figure out tactics to try to come back again. So it's not really a long-term solution necessarily. He'll just figure out another way to do the pirza and to come in, right? The second approach, on the other hand, is that we're going to try to educate the thief, and hopefully he'll go out to his bandits of thieves and explain to him why it's not good to steal, and teach him Emuna and Hashem. And of course, the second approach requires a lot of work, investment of time, stamina, wisdom. But at the end of the day, this really describes the way of service that was before Hasidut and the way of service after Hasidut. The way of service, so to speak, before Hasidut was, let's just chase away this Yetzer Hara. Let's go, selling around in the snow and fasting and seeing our body and materialism as an enemy. And then we get rid of it. Sort of like in a way, there was what was big before the time of the Baal Shem Tov was the Musar movement. And yes, that definitely can help us in many, many ways. But yet, if we can go ahead and we can understand what is the purpose of this Yetzer Hara, this thief that's trying to steal me away from my God, let's get to understand what can be found. If everything is Elokut, that means there's Elokut in the one that brought the Yetzer Hara into the universe. So if we educate ourselves and we recognize, and yes, it's a lot of work and it's wisdom and it's overcoming, but as the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh teaches us, Hara hu kiseh latov. Bad is a chair and a springboard to reveal something else. And so the long, preparing ourselves for the long path means that if we learn and understand what the reason, so to speak, was why we even have a thief, a Yetzer Hara that's trying to steal us away from our God, then Be'ezrat Hashem, it's a completely different approach, and we'll hopefully be able to really, really conquer it in a way of finding the gold that's hidden in the mud, right?
It's not even so far-fetched for the thief. I don't know if any of you have read the book about Rabbi Gross, the Rav of Migdal Emek.
No.
It's unbelievable. He was a chassid from Mea Shearim, and he decided it was the 6-day war, and he was so inspired by all the miracles and so on. Not a Lubavitcher, a chassid, but not a Lubavitcher, coming from Mea Shearim. So, being raised with a very insular type of hashkafa. And he says, I want to go and help Jews become more connected to their neshama and to Hashem. And he went, he got the bracha from his Rebbe, from his father. And he was a young man who'd grown up very, very sheltered, went to Migdal Emek at the time. It was full of criminals, not from at all. Now it's, besides Bnei Brak, it's the only place that doesn't have any transportation, I think it is, running at all on Shabbos. He's created institutions for struggling children, for children from poor homes, from problematic homes. In the prison services, he has organizations. He's incredible. So if you Google, it's an art scroll book, Rabbi Gross from Migdal Emek. I can't remember the book, and I can say I've not got my book.
I think I've actually seen him. Yeah. I think I've actually seen his whole movement and his whole factory of mitzvahs, as we could call him. Yeah. Yeah,
it's unbelievable. And he, I can't remember, he went to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. I can't remember what it was the Rebbe said about him. Something, obviously very high standing. But he's a perfect example of darkness is not going to stop him. Darkness is there as a springboard. And he actually, there was a mafia boss in Migdal Emek who, I can't remember the trouble that he was causing and so on. He invited him over to his home and he says, I'm buying you a truck. He says, if you could, would you be interested in an honest job? And he actually said, yes.
Wow.
And he got him into an honest profession, and he became a truck driver.
Yeah.
With mafia boss.
Wow.
And again, and it affected his friends, business associates, whatever you want to call them. And so much, but it's story after story after story. of this is real. It's really possible.
Wow.
And in our own lives, I was just thinking of a mashal of there's a teacher who takes a concept and explains it to the students. And she or he may explain it really, really well. And the kids may get it, may not. But then there's another type of teacher who doesn't give the concept to the students, but helps the children realize that they actually already know this. It's actually already part of them and part of their awareness. And I don't know if anyone else gets that feeling. I know I myself also, Mabalas Tshuva, came to Yiddishkeit at around 18, and over the next few years, like more and more with Hasidus and Chabad. And that feeling of, I've learned this before. Like, I know this. Sometimes we can think it's so simple because it's so familiar.
It feels like
and
home. Because it feels like home. Where we learn Hasidus, we feel at home with Hashem.
Wow. So, and that's, oh, wow. And that's what Mashiach is. That's what Geula is. Adira B'Tachtonim is where we make Hashem feel at home. But not only that, we feel at home with Hashem.
Right.
And it said it's not, Mashiach's not going to come. There will be miracles, but it's not coming at the world. It's coming through the world. When the world says, we want this. This is actually what we need. And we see a lot of darkness that has been happening over the past few years, especially. And at the same time, we see what's coming out of that darkness, that people are really getting to a place of yearning and realizing, of course, there's a God. And of course, we want Hashem.
Absolutely. Can you share with Hayom Yom? You said you're going to share with us Hayom Yom.
Yes, I have to do it with the phone. So I'll just take off my video if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I would love to be able to hear. We want to hear. And then we're going to open up. Everybody prepare something. We want to invite you to also be part of the Farbrengen and share also something from Hasidut, what it means to you, what your life is about. Yes.
Okay, so the Hayom Yom is a book which has small teachings for each day. It was actually composed by Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, the 7th Lubavitcher Rebbe, but it was asked to be put together by the 6th Lubavitcher Rebbe. And for today, for Kaf-Daled Tevet, it goes like this. On this day, the Alter Rebbe passed away in the village of Piena on Saturday night of Parshas Shmos, 1812, and he is interred in the city of Haditch. My grandfather, Reb Shmuel, asked the Samech Tzedek, what did grandfather, the Alter Rebbe, intend with the ways of Hasidus? And what did he intend with Hasidus? The Samech Tzedek answered, the ways of Hasidus are the all Hasidim, which, in parentheses, the Lubavitcher Rebbe said, anyone who wants to be a chassid, to be my chassid, is a chassid. Someone asked, what do I need to do to become a chassid? Anyone who the desire is enough. So the Hasidim, that all the ways of Hasidus are that all Hasidim are to be like one family, with affection as Torah teaches. Hasidus is vitality. Hasidus is to bring life and illumination into everything, to shed light even on the undesirable, to become aware of one's own evil exactly as it is in order to correct it.
Wow. What pearls of wisdom. Wow. Gorgeous. So please, yeah.
I just wanted to mention one more thing that so at a Farbrengen, what's also customary is for us to be able to internalize the great light of the day and of the Farbrengen, we take on a hachlata. We take on some decision, preferably small, because then it's a lot more likely that we're going to keep it. Although it could also be for 1 day or 2 or 3 days, we take something on that so that we have a kli, we have a vessel for all this light, so we can take this light into our lives. So I really do encourage, if that's okay, to encourage everyone to make a hachlata. Like I say, nothing's too small. It can be 20 agorot into the pushka. My hachlata I want to share, and B'ezrat Hashem, when sharing it publicly, it gives more koach, is to start saying in Shemona Esrei the psukim of my name. For some reason, I never had that and never was able to integrate it. So I would like to start doing that. B'ezrat Hashem.
Wow. Wow. So last Farbrengen, I took upon myself, which I've been trying very, very hard. I mean, I definitely have been doing better at it. And that was I committed myself to take on Shabbat a plug mincha, which whoever knows me in my time knows that's a really big achlata and Kabbalah for me, who has a really hard time with time. Like, I really do. I have a running joke that I'm going to be late to my own funeral because I'm like really, really, really late. I have like a really hard time. My husband and I, this is a big piece of our life. He's always early, and of course, I'm always going to be late. So I have a really hard time with that. However,
they always marry each other, right? The
Oh,
on-time
yeah,
one, the late
Hashem.
one, the one who likes it hot marries the one who likes it cold.
because Hashem has a great sense of humor. He just loves to bring two polar opposites and say, now get along. And that's exactly what it is. Yeah. So anyway, so that was my achlata. I'm going to renew a Kabbalah that I try to take upon myself every day, and I've been really good for the most part, but sometimes I do mess up. And I'm going to renew this achlata, and this has completely to do with the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and that is that every day happens to be, which is why Kaf-Daled Tevet is very dear to me. It's the birthday of my husband. He was born on Kaf-Daled Tevet. So I said to him, you see, we're Chabad whether you like it or not. So I took upon myself last year to say the following year's Tehillim, right? I know that this was something that's a minhag in Chabad. So I say one for me and one for my husband, and I'm just going to renew that to really put it in my mind, bli neder, to make sure that I keep on that all year long.
B'ezrat Hashem.
What
Be with bracha and hatzlacha.
was there something in particular that I'm literally asking, like the Rebbe said that we should do that? Was there a reason? Was it at a certain time that he said that we should do that? Like, I'm just curious to know.
I don't know when it was introduced, but I do know it says that anyone struggling, if anyone has any children struggling, that to say their kapitel each day, meaning exactly if they are 18, you say the 19th, your tet, because they're in their 19th year. If anyone's struggling, and also what it is it connects the neshama to the previous generations and to their future generations, that they should continue to have generations of Yidden, from Yidden coming after them.
Nice. Oh, now I'm really excited that I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. Beautiful.
Great.
Okay, so let's open up and see who wants to share.
Yeah.
Devora, you had your hands up before. Can you share something?
Right. I just wanted to add something to the Tehillim. You don't have to wait till you have problems with anyone. So I have the custom Friday night when I light the candles. After that, I sit and I say Tehillim for everyone in my family, and also for people who are sick and who needs a refuah or are dear to me, friends. And that's how I spend my time till my husband comes home from shul. And I wouldn't want to miss it. It's a very, very special time for me. And it makes me feel, as Leah Shena said, it makes me feel very connected to the people I mention. And during the year, you are, I mean, anyways, I'm saying a lot of Tehillim, but you get so connected to that perek, and you feel it much stronger, and it's very beautiful.
I will tell you that that's exactly the way I've been feeling this last year when I kept saying, my Perek Tehillim. I really did. I started finding myself in the Tehillim. It was actually really beautiful.
It's very beautiful.
I like that minhag though, doing it on Shabbos because I always wonder, how am I going to have time to do, but that,
and
I love that.
I sit in front of the candles. So I'm finished with everything and I just sit in front of the candles. So that's very special.
Love it.
For me. And what I wanted to add about what Hasidus means to me is that the word mitzvah got a completely different taste. Like when I grew up, when I became from in a very Yekische, Litvische surrounding, and it was about what you have to do. And when something bad happens in your surrounding, then you did something which was not good, so it was your fault. It didn't happen to me personally, but to somebody in some of my friends, and I always felt like I can't relate to this image of a God who punishes me like that because I did something wrong, and how does this go together with tshuva? It doesn't make sense. And then when I learned that mitzvah, it's really tzavsa, it connects you with Hashem. Everything you do is not because you have to do it, but because it connects you to Hashem. If I light my candles, if I say a bracha, if I daven in the morning, everything, it's just a connection. And I think it puts that so much in the center, like your relationship to Hashem. And the Alter Rebbe is saying that everything is about Achdus Hashem, everything. So whether you learn halacha, or if you learn Tanya, or if you help a neighbor, it's all about Achdus Hashem. And I just love that concept.
Love it. Love it. Mitzvah from the word Tzavta Elokut, right? We team up, create a union.
Right. And that's also Achdus Hashem.
Right.
Because in doing the mitzvah, you feel that part of Achdus. And I think that's very special.
Wow. Hadula Hashem, we found it. Thank you. Thank you, Devorah. So I see that Yehudis came on. You want to share something? We see you walking along the street there.
Hi. And there's also Chaya Sarah.
Ah, yes, Chaya Sarah. I want to answer her question. Yes. Yehudis.
Hi. I guess I missed so much, but the Alter Rebbe means so much to me. I didn't grow up Lubavitch either. And so Devorah, this kind of relates to what you were saying. I grew up in a school that was kind of Litvish, and I remember them saying that it's very difficult to reach Ahavas Yisrael without, like in these days, it's not really something that we could attain. And I remember it just didn't resonate with me. Like, how could that even be, that we can't reach Ahavas Hashem? I mean, we say Shema Yisrael, we say V'ahavta every day. Like, you should love Hashem. What does that even mean? And then it says that you should teach your children how to love Hashem. So how do you do that if you yourself don't love Hashem? So luckily I discovered Tanya. I really became Lubavitch through the Tanya, through my love for Tanya and how everything's in Tanya. Everything it answers, it's so beautiful. There's psychology in there, there's philosophy, there's practical advice, there's advice about depression and how to get over, ego, whatever, everything is in there. So Baruch Hashem, recently I started doing the Tanya every day. I took it upon myself in the last, I'd say, year or so, a little more than a year. And it's just, I'm encouraging anyone who doesn't do it every day. It's so easy to do it today on the app or there's so many people who do it, who explain it. And it's really life altering. So sharing that.
I have also. I've recently joined actually Nechama Kaplan. She's one of our practitioners, right? She has a beautiful learning Tanya. She writes it for singles, so sorry to. I'm not single, but I still joined. Maybe I'm single because I want to marry Hashem, right? So that's how I could look at it. But and I love. She encapsulates it in like 5 minutes, and you just walk away salivating. So you said, there's so many different ways of being able to just learn it quick and to the point and feel like you gain something for your neshama that day. Amazing. I'm glad you're here. Okay, so let's really answer then. Hi, Sarah. Yes, hi, Sarah. You have a question? No, you sure? But we want to hear you.
Oh, no, it's not a question. It's just more just like sharing.
Please share.
So basically, I bought this book. It's like the Practical Tanya, and
I have it. It's amazing.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because I just figured this out this year that my birthday is what it was yesterday, and I never realized that this is that Rabbi I don't know, the Baal Tanya's birthday, like the art site is today. And I never connected it together until this year. And I just started learning Tanya this year. I just ended up finding it. And it's been so interesting because it's so helpful for me that it is. I definitely, was raised with grandfather, Holocaust survivor, punishing God, whatever, all these different pieces, OCD Judaism, Baal Tshuva, coming into all this stuff. And it's I worked for many, many years, trying to change my mindset of okay, how to think about God. And okay, intellectually, we get it's a good God, all these things, but emotionally, it's just somehow it there was still a disconnect as much as I tried. So it's amazing that it's through the Tanya, it's I don't know, even one of the lessons it was just saying, it was I don't know exactly where it is, but it's when you do a mitzvah in this world, it's like you're hugging the king, no matter how many garments he has, a coat, but you're hugging him. But in the next world, it's only the light, Hashem's light onto the neshama. So you're actually closer to Hashem in this world when you do a mitzvah. And it was whoa, this is just this whole shift on how you relate to everything. It's not, this isn't about, God punishing or not this and that. It's just about
having a relationship, having
them,
having
relationship, right?
How you come closer. I sometimes have to distance, and that's just the movement of just having a real palpable relationship with my Creator.
Yeah. So it's a fun journey, and it's definitely a bracha.
Hold up the book again, just because in case anybody wants to see it, they should. I'm totally for this book because this book really, just like it says, practical Tanya.
Yeah.
Mamish, it's can I speak daring and say Tanya for dummies? Literally, you don't know nothing about Tanya.
Yeah.
And it takes you through the pieces. And I love it. I have, just like you, little noties all over the place.
All the highlights and everything.
It's a very nicely worn and torn, which is the way books need to be. not new on the shelf.
And it was so fascinating because I had it out and I would just share different things with my husband. And all of a sudden he picked up the book. He's oh, I'm going to make a chavrusa to learn Tanya. I'm okay. Gorgeous. And so my daughter, we went out for dinner last night. I'm okay, let's share some Torah or whatever. And my little 8-year-old goes, Mommy, does Tati learn more than you do? I'm I don't know. I think he probably has a chavrusa, so he probably is learning it more than I am right now. He's she goes to me, well, why don't you make a set time to learn it? I'm you're right.
Wow, nice. Wow, thank you, Sarah. That's amazing. Thank you for inspiring us. So beautiful. Mushka, I see someone else who's unmuted.
say thank you very much. I'm not so, let me see how to figure out this screen thing. Is there a video maybe?
There you go.
It was, so I'm very grateful that I got to participate with this beautiful, inspiring Farbrengen. I took notes throughout because I was doing a bunch of things, and it's interesting. You know, I actually was born and raised Chabad. Very jealous actually of the Bali Tshuva, because I felt like, you know, when someone tells you, like when it's part of your culture, it's like you do it, and you do it because everyone else is doing it, but it's don't own it. It like it's not yours. Like I always wonder, like if I wasn't, would I? You know, am I choosing it because I want to, or am I going with it because this is the status quo and I have peer pressure? So to me, hearing it from the other side, hearing the inspiration. It's I think it's interesting how everyone, like how you have from someone and you get inspired, and then you speak, and because you're so inspired and you inspire so many people, or re-inspire, I would say. Right. And it really, like it really to me shows the power of light, and like they said, Hasidism is bringing life and bringing light, and like the way that it catches, the way that it spreads, the way that there's always room to make it more alive or even brighter than before. It's something that's not limited in a way. Wow. And something that I also loved was that, you know, you said something about how a teacher, like what a teacher can teach kids. Oh, here's a new concept I'm teaching you. Or she can say, hey, look, here's something, and you already have it. You already know this. And for me, I was like, it was an aha moment, because I always struggle with math, let's say, for example. And I'm bad at math. I'm not good at math. And when I went to get my degree, I had to write a report on a math concept. And I decided to do math phobia. Like, it's a concept people just don't do it. They block out their minds. And I started a course, and it was all about, hey, do you look at the clock? Do you bake? Do you drive? These are all math. You already have it. And so I think the Alter Rebbe does that for Yidden. Like, you have an Nefesh Elikis, you have an Nefesh HaBahamis. You are a piece of Hashem. You have that light. You have that goodness, and you have everything you need to challenge. And you also have Bechira. That's, I think, today. Well, no, but you have everything you need. Here's your journey, and everyone's unique, and everyone's neshama has their journey, and really, as Hasidim, we part of our job is like helping each other out and lighting up the way for each other and supporting everyone. So I want to thank you for this Farbrengen, and I'm going to copy the hachlata of saying my kapitel, because I loved, Devorah, what you said. I used to also, like, Shabbos was the time when I said my husband and children's kapitel, but I kind of stopped. So I'm going to see if I can do it daily, and if not, I'll do it on Shabbos. So thank you. That's over.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on. This is beautiful. I love the Achdus here. I just love it. Okay.
Fortunately, but unfortunately, I'm going to have to jump off.
I know, same here. I think I have to leave too. I also have another thing. Okay, we're going to, you can go. Obviously, thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you. And thanks everybody. Mamash. And
you fed our soul.
Once again, to Farbrengen the Beis HaMikdash, and very, very soon.
Amen.
Very soon.
Amen. Amen. Thank you.
Amen. And there's a woman, Sterny Ginsburg. She has Tanya classes online. And she also teaches out of the text, and she brings it down beautifully. She also wrote a book. She's a coach, a shlucha, The Unbreakable. I'm not sure what her book's called.
Your awesome
Shirley
self.
Ginsburg.
It's something about
Your
transformation. Your awesome self.
That's it. I'm based on Tanya.
Okay, amazing.
Okay.
That's good
All
to
the
know.
best, everyone.
Thank you. Thank
Hi,
you.
I wanted to,
Yes.
hi, my name is Rifki. I just wanted to add that my sister and I were listening and we heard you asking, I don't know if it was answered yet, but there was a question about the source, about saying the Tehillim for your name, for your age, your spouse, your children's. And I said, hey, why don't we know that? I didn't think the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe originated it. So we actually looked it up. It's in the back of the Tehillim of Ol Yosef Yitzchak, there's a lot of beautiful little letters and tidbits about Tehillim.
Okay.
And here, can I read this? It's just a few lines. It's actually from a letter that's dated the 10th of Teves, and it says, you are familiar with the custom received by the Alter Rebbe from his Rebbe in the name of his Rebbe, our teacher, the Baal Shem Tov, namely to say the chapter of Tehillim that corresponds to the number of one's years after davening Shachris, before saying the customary daily Yom, the portion of the day. So I thought that was so incredible because it's literally today.
Wait, but did I understand it correctly? It says that it's customary to read it, the number of the one's years. So where did the idea of saying it for the year after?
I think it must have been from them, because that's the minhag came from originally from the Baal Shem Tov. So I imagine that the way to do it, because really it's the year that we're entering. So even though we are, let's say we're 20, right? We like to think we're about 20, so we're entering our 21st year. Right. Thank you so much for this beautiful, beautiful Farbrengen. And I may just, because I love the idea of bringing things down in a very concrete way. So if you don't mind, if I suggest 2 things, and I'll also remind myself about it. Next to the pushka, I try to have a pushka near the door, so that my children are reminded before they go anywhere, they see the pushka, and then I'll take a really nice little ceramic dish or something and keep a bunch of coins there. So literally it's right in front of them. The coins are there, the pushka's there. All they have to do is, put a few coins in, and it just gives you a safer day, a happier day. And actually this was something I only heard from our Rebbe, but also a simple, easy thing. And I just love it. He encouraged that we not only have a pushka in our kitchen, but we try to attach it literally to the wall of the kitchen, because as women, the kitchen is where all the love and the cooking that we feed our family, that's like the foundation of a home in a way. And when we attach the pushka to the wall, we're attaching it to the foundation of the home. So we're making the whole entire home like a home of chesed. And the Rebbe even said that when we give tzedakah in that pushka, we should have in mind that the food that we cook should be at the utmost level of kashrus, and also that it should be delicious. Your food should come out good. So that's a small suggestion and reminder to myself. They make these pushkas ready-made together with the hooks and the place where you could affix it to the wall. So thank you so much, Rebbitzin, and all of you are so inspired. I was thinking, what am I doing today for Kaf-Daled Tevet? And I saw this flyer and I'm like, I want to join this. I want to check it out.
I'm so happy you came. Amazing.
Thank you so much. Good Yom Tov to everyone.
Amen. You too. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Shayna, you want to say something? I have to leave also in like 5 minutes. I got to leave. I have another Zoom call. Yes. Anybody? Anybody? I saw Shayna. Okay. Naomi, Orly, you want to share something?
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi.
I would like to share something that I learned yesterday in Tanya. It was amazing. It shows Chesed Hashem. So basically, what I learned was that when the reason why Hashem puts desires and impure thoughts in our mind is in order for us to overcome those impure thoughts and to overcome those desires. And when we overcome those desires and push aside those impure thoughts, they become merits. It's a mitzvah. Each time we have a negative thought, each time we have an impure desire and we push it away, then like it turns into a mitzvah. So like it just shows like, and Hashem puts those thoughts in our minds so that we could overcome those thoughts. So it's a chesed from Hashem, because He wants us to do more mitzvahs, and the more mitzvahs we do, the closer we get to Hashem. And I also read that when we overcome our impulses, our impulsive thoughts, it gives Hashem a lot more pleasure than when we give thanks to Hashem. I think that's what I understood. So yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful. I was just mentioning this really in one of the recent programs that I teach, Rise and Shine, where that there's an inyan about mitzvah, the mitzvahs of al ta'aseh. You know, we're always paying attention to the mitzvot aseh, but we keep forgetting that there's mitzvot al ta'aseh, and that feeds exactly what you're saying. Mitzvot al ta'aseh means when you don't do something, you get a mitzvah, and it shines light and illuminates your soul just as much as when you go out and you do. And that's exactly what you're saying. And that add-on piece that you said was so beautiful. It's kedei lezakot et am Yisrael b'mitzvot. Like that part didn't click until you didn't say it. Like to recognize even that, like, look what a chesed Hashem does for us, that He gives us the opportunity to just say, push it away. And with that, we get light by just al ta'aseh, right?
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you.
Love it. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
So much. Thank you. Okay, so I think I'm gonna sign off for the night also here. So if you all want to continue, because I have to go myself, but this was lovely. This was absolutely lovely. I'm so glad to be doing this. I'm addicted to the Farbrengen idea. I think Yehudis got me definitely hooked onto it. She's like, why don't we do Farbrengen? In the beginning, I was like a little bit hesitant, like, I don't know. But she's a real Chabad, you know, she's knows how to be chazak, and I'm glad I'm tagging along. And just wonderful to be here, really. Thank you, Yehudis. Thank you for...
Thank you. Did you mention about the Alter Rebbe being a new neshama?
Yes. No, we talked about it a little bit. Ed, we have another like four minutes.
So to me, it's fascinating to hear that, you know, this is a neshama that's like on the level of Tanaim. Like we don't even grasp what it is. Such a recent neshama who has the holiness of like the times of the Beis HaMikdash, like, so it's a treasure. Like all the, you know, any word, like, I don't know if you mentioned that the Tanya was written so carefully that the Alter Rebbe debated for months about whether to include one vav or not. Like the little, I mean, that's why 52 prakim connected 52 parshios, and also Parak Lamed Beis is the one about Ahavas Yisrael. Every single part of Tanya is written with like tremendous amounts of siyata d'shmaya, like holiness, that will, just to look at the Tanya with our eyes purifies our eyes.
Wow.
I used to, when my kids were young, I used to have this as also a minhag to enlarge the shar blot of Tanya and hang it up for kids to read Aleph Beis and learn Aleph Beis through the shar blot of Tanya. It increases a Yiras Shamayim.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. So it was laminated so the kids could just like touch it. And
so nice. I love it.
Yeah.
So someone asked here what the last person said about giving Hashem pleasure. So giving Hashem pleasure in the fact that the mitzvot al ta'aseh, when you're introduced something that you know you're not supposed to engage in, and you push it away, what's called tchiyata ta'anug, so to speak, like you push away this desire that's being introduced that you might even, and in another case, entertain or want to entertain, and you decide, no, for the sake of Shemayim, I'm going to push it away. It's not good for me to engage in this desire, in this thought, in this imagination. I'm not going to embellish it. The pop-up thought came to me as a nisayon, but I'm not going to go and continue it on because it's not right for me. It's not going to lead me to holy places. It's going to keep me astray. It brings tremendous nachat ruach to Hashem when you make that hachlata and you make that decision that I'm not going to go ahead and engage in this and make it bigger than what it initially was introduced to me. So that's the pleasure that we give to Hashem.
Can I add on to that? I literally just read that like this morning in this. It literally said the Beinoni shuts the door on all hatred, jealousy, resentment, like all the like negative emotions that you feel are non-positive vibrations, and any negative feelings, like he doesn't give them power. And instead, beyond that, the self-mastery of the Beinoni demands a positive, loving response devoid of any anger and resentment. So like basically Hashem wanted to grow your soul. So he put this these experiences here to help you, and they're actually benefiting you. So like tap into the fact that they're actually helping you, and you from that place you can respond from a higher level and like, you know, be kind to the person, or, you know, you don't have to like be mad that you're going through it.
Wow. Love it. Thank you, Chaya Sarah. Okay, with that, we're going to bid farewell for the next time. Be'ezrat Hashem, thank you all. This was really wonderful. And we should always meet B'smachot and Farbrengen. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day and a good night. All right. Thank you.